Welcome back to the Brandon K Show. I am your host, as always, Brandon K, and this is a real show. And today we're going to talk about this great book, The Four Agreements, with my special guest, Josh.
Good to be here.
Um, Josh and I have been talking about this book for a little while, about how much we've learned from it. And of course, we're going to talk about the four big ones, the four agreements. Says a practical guide to personal freedom, a Toltec wisdom book. And when I opened up this book and started reading the introduction, I was surprised about how spiritual and how connected to the Toltec it was. I thought it was going to be a more practical kind of book.
hmm
Do you know what this Toltec thing is?
yeah, it's basically an ancient culture. I guess you could say like an ancient way of belief. Kind of like the way that they viewed a lot of their just I guess the way their way of life. Really, I kind of thought the same thing. I thought it was going to be one of those like informational, like step one, step two, step three. But as I actually I've read the book a couple times now, and it's fantastic. I love the book. It's definitely changed the way that I think about a lot of things.
So just as a warm up, like the introduction starts with the smoky mirror. Can you tell us about that? I read this a couple weeks back, but I don't exactly remember what is. Well, we're gonna get into the smoky mirror and then the domestication and the dream of the planet. We're getting into this deep spiritual stuff before we jump into the four agreements.
I guess sure. I guess my take on the smoky mirror would be kind of like the overall perception that a lot of people have, and that kind of ties into the domestication aspect of it. Where a lot of people, I guess you can kind of think of it as like closed minded. A lot of people are closed minded and not necessarily open to different ways of thinking, different perceptions, things along those lines. And the smoky mirror is kind of where the mass people are behind, I guess would be the best way to explain that.
Yeah, just flipping through, it's like looks like he's going from probably the material world to the spiritual world, because right here on the third page he's saying, this is what we discovered: everything in existence is a manifestation of the one living being we call God. Everything is God. And he came to the conclusion that human perception is merely light perceiving light. He also saw that matter is a mirror. Everything is a mirror that reflects light and create images of that light. And the world of illusion, the dream, is just like smoke, which doesn't allow us to see what we really are. The real us is pure love, pure light, he said.
And that I love it. I couldn't. That one of the biggest takeaways that I got from this is kind of the way that I treat other people, and how I view other people, or at least try to. I'm not perfect, but as one of the agreements that we'll cover is do the best that you can. Always try to be the best that you can, do the best that you can. And of course, as I'm human, I fail, and there's a lot of things that I falter on, but constantly viewing other people with love and respect and integrity, and trying to be there for others is one of the concepts that the book talks about. And it's just, I don't know, like I said, there's I can't say enough good about the book, really.
Yeah, and I'll just say it again that like I wasn't expecting to go this deep in this book in the first, chapter here. It says what you are seeing and hearing right now is nothing but a dream. You are dreaming right now in this moment. You are dreaming with the brain awake. So like I said, this is like deeply philosophical stuff. I was expecting more of a practical book, but this does line up with my personal beliefs.
Which are those? What are your personal beliefs?
My personal beliefs started early in my life that life is a dream, and we're just perceiving something in front of us. And I used to think that I am the only believer. I am the only person perceiving the dream. There's only one. But now I see that we're all in our own universe. But still, there is an illusion quality to life where what we perceive, we create what we perceive, we manifest what we perceive to some degree. That's the secret, the law of attraction, the secret.
Mhm.
So,
I
like,
I
when
think
we
if you were to say that to anybody under the age of 20, they'd say, "Are you calling us NPCs?"
NPCs. I
Yeah,
hear it all the time. People talking about, we live in a simulation.
Mhm.
yeah.
I hear that often too.
Yeah, but we're starting to get into the evidence these days of the on the quantum mechanics level, and like so many unexplained phenomenon and perception affecting reality, and like our own personal experiences. So I mean, this is kind of all stuff that's been around a long time, but like there's nothing to disprove it as of now.
Yeah.
It's like it seems like we get closer and closer to proving it
Mhm.
is scientifically and
True.
everything.
I mean, my take on that is going with you're living in a dream. I think a lot of it is what you choose to believe, and when it comes to a spiritual aspect, or spiritual way of thinking, if you're the type of person that's yay science, and
Mm,
I only view science, this isn't something that's going to come naturally to you. However, if you come at this with an open mind, and that's kind of, the book also did kind of open me up to a way of thinking that I didn't necessarily have before, and new concepts, and new ideas. But the spiritual way of thinking isn't something that you can scientifically prove. Whereas with science, there it's backed by facts. This is this, this is this, this is this. It's hard facts.
it's hard facts, but there's so much room for error as you like go like what we perceive is one thing, and then there's deeper levels under what we perceive. So science is not like as foolproof as you would think.
Hmm.
Are we able to talk about your Christian faith here today?
Sure, absolutely.
So how does that tie together with, what you read in the book, like a Toltec kind of perspective, and then your Christian faith? How do those two merge together?
Well, one of the interesting things for me is, it's something that I kind of grew into. I would say, if I had to identify, yes, I would be Christian if I had to put a name to it, a religious name. However, at this point, I would say that I'm more of a spiritual person.
Mhm.
And really what I find is, if you take the book here, the four agreements, and then you take the Bible and the 10 commandments, and then you take principles from, Buddhism, and then it's all really along the same gist, same stuff,
Mhm.
be kind to one another, avoid lying and deceit, be there for other people, come from an angle of love and appreciation for another person, which, as me being a human, isn't is doesn't come naturally, and like
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily like sit well with me, especially when things happen to me. I do want to respond in anger or frustration or things like that, but um with my faith, and spirituality, it's kind of like my perception. And as you had mentioned about science, how it's always changing, it's always evolving, and what we thought at one point isn't necessarily what we think now. My spirituality is kind of like along those same lines. It's always changing, it's always evolving and growing, but the underlining story behind all of that, and in my belief, whether it be religion or spirituality, is it all comes from a place of love, and trying to be there for other people.
Yeah, and I relate to what you're saying, coming from a Christian background and then being an atheist for a long period of just like and just being a human and looking for spiritual things. Is like I need all the help I can get, so I'm going to look at all these different books to just try to manage my human state. So,
Yeah.
and I there was a time where I was closed to Christian ideas, but like now I'm happy to read scripture and be like, "Oh, there's something in there I can learn," you know?
Yeah, yeah, and it's interesting that you bring that up because I did not expect this conversation to go this way, but it's a story that I think might help people. You know, growing up as a kid, the idea and concept of religion was pretty tough for me. With my father in the background, you know, at one point we were Mormon, at one point we were Christian, and there's just a lot of stuff that happened. You know, growing up as a kid, and so the concept of religion was something that I felt to me was forced,
Mm.
and it was like, if you don't think this way, you're wrong, and it's this way and it's no other way. And you know, that's not necessarily the belief that I have today, and that's kind of where I lean to in spirituality is, you know, if you look at all of the things and read between the lines, whether it's, you know, Buddhist, Christianity, you know, whatever it is, all of the concepts are the same, and you know, being there for other people.
Yeah, and that's what's important to me too. And when you ask me what I believe, I got into like kind of like the dream kind of manifestation kind of belief, but ultimately I believe in like the principles behind um the fundamental truths and the principles behind any of this spiritual stuff, or the truth wherever it may come from.
Hmm.
That's what I really believe in.
Yeah.
So that was just all to set up the groundwork for where this is coming from, and then we get in, and then he continues to weave that through the agreements. But we start, and this is actually where he gets into talking about how our words create our reality. The first agreement is be impeccable with your word. And I remember reading this, and he's even talking like it's a form of magic, just the way that we speak and manifest,
The
with
black
our
magic and the white magic.
with our words. So what did you think about this first one?
So, I mean, at first glance, the first thing that I thought is be impeccable with your word is, you know, follow through with what you say you're going to do. You know, if you tell somebody you're going to be somewhere at a specific time, be there. But it actually goes a little bit more in depth, and talks about the power of the language and communication that we have. You know, as humans, we do have the ability to speak different languages. We have the ability to communicate with others, and we can either use that as black magic, is what he calls it, where,
Hmm.
you know, we are constantly oppressing people and talking down to people and making them feel bad about themselves to essentially make us feel better as people. And he relates to that as the poison. You know, when we infect people with the poison, we're using black magic through our words and communication to harm other people. But the other side of that is, there's white magic, where you use your words to uplift people. You use your words to be there for other people. If somebody's going through a rough day or having a really hard time, you know, we have the ability to communicate to them and provide them hope, and essentially give them, you know, strength and encouragement. So that's the difference between the black magic and the white magic.
Yeah, there's so much here. I'm even picking stuff up here on page 26. It says, here we go. The Gospel of John in the Bible, speaking of the creation of the universe, says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word is God." So there you go. You got your Bible reference. But then it says, regardless of what language you speak, your intent manifests through the Word. What you dream, what you feel, and what you really are will all be manifested through the Word. Okay, so and then so how important the word is right there. And then I'm going to jump ahead. It says, all the magic you possess is based on your word. Your word is pure magic, and misuse of your word is black magic. And one way I like to look at that, I forgot the name of it right now, but the idea that like they can even like prove that negative words can like affect plants in like negative
Hmm.
ways, and like
Yep.
affect sand in um like a nice positive word is like a very symmetrical shape, and then like a negative word is like it rots, it just rots the core like on a deep molecular level. This is something that like sounds very woo woo and sounds
I
very
was just gonna say.
unbelievable, but like I have researched it, and like they have machines that do this, and it's like it seems like a provable thing. As much as I believe that as much as any scientific thing you could say, I think it's done in a scientific way. It was something to research for each of us. I don't believe it blindly, but I do believe because there is a word and a machine that actually proves it scientifically that I wish I had backed up, but uh, Solomon's got this on the screen. Overstimulation of the amygdala can cause high levels of stress, and to some extent, it can lead to chronic cases of depression. Negative words are also known to activate the amygdala, which is the region of the brain responsible for the production of stress hormones. So, without even looking at it scientifically, we know that, like, if I go yell at someone on the street right now, that's gonna, be a hard time. They're gonna get stressed out.
And
We have the power to affect people for the positive and for the negative, like, what no matter how you look at it.
what 100%. With that, it talks about in the four agreements, it compares that to the poison is what it says. And when somebody's struggling internally with something and they lash out in anger or words, they're effectively transferring that poison from one person to another.
Mm.
And it's funny that you bring up the thing with the plants. I heard the same thing too. If you,
I've
I don't
seen
know why
videos.
somebody would yell at their plants, but you never
I've
know.
seen
But
experiments.
there's things that prove that if you speak to your plants and hey, I hope you have a good day. I love you. You're beautiful. Um, and I don't know if that's something to do with again, this would tie into something. I know you said without getting into the woo woo, but
Mhm.
it's I think it has a lot to do with your perception. Um, you know, you are what you think you are. You are where your thoughts are.
What did you find up there, Solomon? You scrolled down from something, or
Oh, sorry.
oh, is that you're looking at something
I'm just yeah,
else?
I was looking up the poison of gossip, which is part of the four
Oh,
agreements.
yes, yes, yes.
Put
So
that on the screen for
so
you.
this is
Sorry.
what really troubles me about the word and our upbringings. It says during our domestication, our parents and siblings gave their opinions about us without even thinking. We believed these opinions and we lived in fear over these opinions, like not being good at swimming or sports or writing. Someone gives an opinion and says, "Look, this girl is ugly." This girl listens, believes she is ugly, and grows up with the idea that she is ugly. It doesn't matter how beautiful she is, as long as she has that agreement, she will believe that she is ugly. That is the spell she is under. And I think that now he's starting to use the word agreement in the way that we look at ourselves as like an
Hmm.
agreement and a way that a self image.
Hmm.
But the, it's an unconscious programming from society when people are just like they insult you or they make you feel less than, and then you go with it, and then you live your life like you're less than, but it's just because of what someone said and what their parents said to them and what society said to them.
Hmm. And that ties into the domestication thing too. I don't know. I used to be very hard on myself when I was younger, and I used to kind of want to mold myself to the beliefs of what others thought that I should be, and I spent the majority of my life, trying to please other people, when in reality I wasn't ever happy, with where I was at mentally, physically. And it's a tough thing to think about nowadays too, especially if there's social media and the internet and everything. And you
Before the
know
internet, it was like the Cosmo magazines and
exactly,
yeah.
exactly, where I don't know, I'm a firm believer that in each single individual person there's beauty there, but society would tell you otherwise. If somebody's a little bit more on the heavy side, especially I think is true in women, it's very tough, because they have to have that supermodel physique. They need to be super super thin, or society views them a certain way. And one of the things that this book helped me with is to break free of that mindset within myself, that
Mhm.
agreement that I had within myself of I'm not good enough for X, Y, and Z. When in reality, the only person that I need to be good enough is me. I need to be good enough with myself.
So I would have to say that this is how we speak to ourselves as well as be impeccable with your word, be impeccable with your self-talk. The word is pure magic, the most powerful gift we have as humans, and we use it against ourselves. We plan revenge. We create chaos with the word. We use the word to create hate between different races, between different people, between families, between nations. We misuse the word so often, and this misuse is how we create and perpetuate the dream of hell. again with this deep spiritual, scary stuff. So getting into creating hell on earth by just our words.
I think what was it? I think it was Henry Ford. I think he had a famous quote that said, "If you think you can or you think you can't, either way, you're right."
Mhm.
And I think that ties into it perfectly. It's just another way of kind of painting that picture for people. Um, but it's all about your perception and the way that you view yourself. If you constantly are walking around with a negative mindset of I'm not good enough or I'm never going to be able to do this, you're not going to, but it's challenging sometimes, especially because it's easy to fall on excuses. It's easy to fall on excuses of, oh, I can't do this because of X, Y, and Z. But in reality, you're limiting yourself to what you're actually capable of doing
Yeah,
or being.
absolutely. So I'm just gonna tie this together with saying that yeah, when you call yourself ugly, says the opinion becomes black magic. These types of spells are difficult to break. The only thing that can break a spell is to make a new agreement based on truth. Principle, a fundamental truth. The truth is the most important part of being impeccable with your word. On one side of the sword are the lies which create black magic, and on the other side of the sword is the truth, which has the power to break the spell of black magic. Only the truth will set us free. So you can tie that all together with we were told we're ugly and we're fat. It's like, what's the truth? And like, even how does it affect you? Like you might even go from like, oh, I'm fat and ugly, so I'll never find a partner or people won't like me. But it's like, how much of that is truth? How much of that did you just jump to conclusion after conclusion after conclusion? And what was really true in this scenario?
And one of the things that I love to do is when somebody has that type of self doubt mentality,
Hmm.
where they let's take appearances, right, whether it be more on the very very skinny anorexic side or maybe more on the heavy side, and the people have the concept of I'm not good enough. Well, good enough, and you just challenge it, you just question it. Good enough for
Yeah.
who?
Right.
Well, it's, everyone says this. Well, who's
Yeah.
everyone? Well, everyone has this, and this is what the average weight of people should be. And it's, if you challenge it, you can, it all spins to nothing. And it's
Yeah.
just this belief that people have in their head of I'm not good enough. Well, you're not good enough for who? Well, it's, and
Yeah.
then there
My own self perception, my own yeah. This whole black magic I've created in my own mind.
exactly.
But yeah, in my own personal experience with struggling with my weight or struggling with my self-esteem is that um it's not going to help me to beat myself up. Like I need to be giving myself positive reinforcement and positive self-love so that I have the motivation to go to the gym and to
Hmm.
eat right. So I mean it's all backwards when it's like okay, it's like you're fat. I'm gonna just blame myself, make myself feel worse, make myself get fatter. It just like perpetually gets worse and worse, based on what we tell ourselves.
And
Most important.
it goes both ways too. I was talking with a friend the other day that's believe it or not skinnier than I am, and I was telling him about how I was excited that I started going to the gym by myself, and
Hmm.
he's like, "Oh, I wish I could go into the gym, but I'm just so skinny," and I'm like,
Hmm.
well. Like, you want to look like the guys that have been going to the gym for a while. Where do you think that they started? You
Hmm.
have to start somewhere. And he's like, "Well, people are people are going to judge me. I'm going to walk in there and they're going to look at me and they're going to judge me." And I said, "What does it matter if they do? They started at the same spot
Yeah.
that you are,
And how likely is it that anyone's really judging you in the
Exactly.
first place?
Exactly. Everyone's actually they're flexing in the mirror, they're looking at themselves, they're
Yeah.
listening to music, they're looking at their phone trying to track their gains, where they're at.
Yeah.
Nobody's watching you come in and,
Yeah.
but it's just it's that agreement that we have in our head. It's that negative self-talk that we have in our head.
So we gotta get through these because we only have so much time. We're on to the second agreement now. Don't take anything personally. And it says Whatever happens around you, don't take it personally. Using an earlier example, if I see you on the street and I say, "Hey, you are so stupid," without knowing you, it's not about you, it's about me. That's a good perspective change is when you get insulted, or if you just go around taking everything personally, you're going to have a very bad time. But even when somebody goes out of their way to insult you, just say that's not about me, that's about them.
Hmm. That's actually one of the ones that I struggle with probably the most as I was reading the book. It was very easy for me to take things personally, and especially if you think about it in the context of, you never know what somebody's going through. You never know what just happened to them in
Mhm.
their life prior to the comment that they just made or whatever it is. And I think that's one of the things that they cover in there is whatever it is, don't take it personally. And the only time that it will affect you is if you agree to what they're saying in your own mind. The
Mhm.
example that I used with my friend and him going to the gym and him being self conscious because he's skinny is I said I like to think of everything that's going on in other people's world is I'm not the star of their show,
Right.
right? If
Yeah.
their life is a movie, they're the main character. I'm just a side character.
Yeah.
Everyone's so caught up in self and where they're at and selfish thinking and I'm not the star of their show. So what does it matter if I'm just a side character if I go into the gym trying to better myself? It's just one of those concepts that's kind of like helped me change my perception with a lot of things.
Yeah, and I can't say enough like how important personal development work is, because if you're not kind of learning this stuff, you just get stuck in these patterns. And I've heard, I as you were talking, I had three different self-help ideas pop up, but um one of the quotes I'll try to reach for here was you wouldn't worry about what people think of you if you realized how often they did or how often they didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like people aren't thinking about you, and they don't they, a lot of people don't care at all. And then the other one for me is what else can this mean? So, when it comes to what are we on? We're on taking anything personally. When someone when someone says something horrible to you, you're just like, this person had a bad day.
Hmm.
What else can this mean? They had a bad day.
Hmm.
They had a bad life. They're on their way to a bad life, and like that has nothing to do with me. Um, so the more we can not take things personally, the better off we are. I'd like to get Solomon in on this. What do you think of our conversation so far here, Solomon?
Well, I think it's interesting. I was looking it up here online, and I was just intrigued to hear you when you said, there was something you struggled with, And I think in this world too, like, we all seem to have self-esteem issues simply because social media, it just hammers into you over and over that,
Hmm.
you know, you're not as good as whomever you think you are, and whomever you see, just like you said, from the magazines. And now we have this tool that's just constantly in front of us. It's on our phones. It's with us all the time. I
Hmm.
mean, think about the bad spirit on your shoulder. It's your cell phone. It's your social media these days. And unfortunately, so many people fall into that, and they do things to try to raise their self-esteem and try to put themselves on that pedestal. But then they just go out and find other creators who they think are even better than them. So it's just sort of, just this failing self-fulfilling prophecy of
I
of,
didn't get
of
enough
doom.
likes on my post, so
Oh
I'm
yeah.
not good
And
enough.
that's the new currency
Yeah.
nowadays.
Yeah.
It's likes and
Yep.
views, and it's not about money. They always make the joke that kids don't want to have cars anymore. They just want to have likes now. So, it's as much as it's a tool, it's hurt society. And I think, number one is recognizing that. And I think number two is just, it's especially for kids, just more control, just exercising more control and giving them more information about how unrealistic these things are. And the truth, and the biggest thing for me was to tell people, hey, look at all the pictures you posted online in the last month, right? In all those pictures, you look happy, you're doing fun things.
Mm,
Okay, now think about all the problems you have in real life,
yep.
right? So, what makes you think everybody else doing the exact same thing as you isn't having the same kinds of issues? And I think sometimes that brings it back into, just into reality for them.
Yeah, like we're saying, like don't take it personally. Like we only know our own experience, so
Yeah.
we project. We always judge ourselves on other people's outsides. We judge our insides on other people's outsides. So like Like, oh, they look like they're having so much fun, and they probably don't have any problems. That's like
Right.
you jump to that. This goes even deeper than that, and it ties together. It says, "Don't take anything personally, because by taking things personally, you set yourself up to suffer for nothing." Humans are addicted to suffering at different levels and to
Mm,
different degrees, and we support each other in maintaining these addictions. Humans agree to help each other suffer. If you have the need to be abused, you will find it easy to be abused by others. Likewise, if you are with people who need to suffer, something in you makes you abuse them. It is as if they have a note on their back that says, "Please kick me." They are asking for justification for their suffering. Their addiction is suffering. Their addiction to suffering is nothing but an agreement that is reinforced every day. And all I would say about that is that kind of like a negative environment, we'll all be talking about negative things. Like if
mhm.
like if you're with your family or friends or whatever, and you have a tend to skew towards the negative, it's very easy to go to a negative place, and we have to
Yeah.
work extra hard at being in positive.
Was the saying "misery loves company"?
Misery loves company.
Mhm.
Absolutely. um so it's just saying that we have this addiction as people, like it, like it's a like yeah, it's like a perverse pleasure. We take a perverse pleasure in, like, oh, I have it so bad. And like self-pity is like a drug. I have a quote on my Facebook. It's like self-pity is like an opiate.
Mhm.
So it's like we can get to that place, and then, oh, it's so bad and everything's so horrible, and nothing's ever going to get better, and then go around and look for people to agree with you. Or I'm making you know I make an effort to try to spread positivity.
Yeah, because if you look for those people, you find them.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's something to be said too that going with don't take anything personally is more often than not the individuals that are constantly belittling other people and talking down on other people to make them feel bad is just because they're not happy with what's going on internally, and
Yeah.
it's up to you on whether you decide to choose whether you want to listen to what they're saying about you or to someone else or talking about someone else behind their back. One of the things that I going with don't be impeccable with your word, and I don't mean to backtrack a little bit,
Mhm.
but with the black magic aspect of it, it literally talks about words have the power to kill.
Absolutely. Right, absolutely. And, I was gonna tie that together, but it got away from me. But, because we're running out of time here, so we're gonna move on to the 3rd agreement. Don't make assumptions. And this one's very much connected to the last one. So problem just problem just conti or the it just continues, the discussion just continues of, like Solomon was saying, you look at somebody's happy pictures on Facebook, you assume that they're having everything's great with them.
Hmm.
And if somebody tells you you're doing a bad job, you assume that, like, they know what they're talking about. It's like
Hmm.
they don't always know what they're talking about. And that's what I was gonna say was, when someone insults you, the big the big tool is to say, do I want to be like this person?
Hmm.
Do I want to even be like somebody who's insulting other people,
Yeah.
like unprovoked? So I mean, like, you can look at it in so many different ways. Like, they might be your boss, they might be your parent, but it's like, do I want to be like them? Like, and in how many areas do I want to be like them? Probably not very many.
Yeah. And I think too it's it's easier to fall into that mindset and that way of negative self-talk or talking about other people behind their back. The don't make assumptions thing, what I think is and this again is something that I struggle with for a long time is I'd walk into a room and in my head I know exactly what they're thinking about and the
Hmm.
dialogue that's going on in their head. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I know for a fact he's thinking about this and this and this, and
Yes.
they're thinking this and this and this. And that's not true. It's just some fabricated thing that I'm thinking in my head. So it's like I have to watch my perception in the way that I think. Watch what you think about what you're thinking about is what I can say to that.
Yeah. It's got examples here. Example of assumptions is, someone smiles at you at the mall. You can make a lot of assumptions just because of this one experience. With these assumptions, you can create a whole fantasy, and you really want to believe this fantasy and make it real. A whole dream begins to form from your assumption, and you can believe, oh, this person really likes me. In your mind, a whole relationship begins from that. Maybe you even get married in this fantasy land. but the fantasy is in your mind in your personal dream. And then, but more importantly, for when it comes to reality here, it says another example is you decide to get married and you make the assumption that your partner sees marriage the same way that you do.
Mm.
Oh,
Then you live together and you find out that this is not true. So that, anywhere in the process
that
of
hits home.
what I mean, imagine how many people are, getting married and they don't discuss um what that means to them. I mean, I can imagine doing that cuz those are difficult ch- chats to have with somebody about like, oh, what is our life going to look like for the next 10 years specifically and stuff like that.
I'm curious to know why that hits home.
Uh-oh. No, because I mean, the funny thing about marriage specifically is that when you get married, there's so many traditions tied to marriage, so many things set in stone already.
Mhm,
So you make an assumption that people going into this understand those things set in stone,
mhm,
and they at the very least abide by them. But let's say you go, but then there are cultural issues or all these other issues. So you go in and you don't really think beyond that, and you go in thinking, okay, I'm going to live by what this thing says. I'm going to, be faithful, do all these things and I'm going to have this partner who's going to be with me whether things are great or not great and be someone I can be vulnerable with. Whereas this woman goes in, let's say a woman, and she says, well, I'm going in and my man is going to protect me. And
mhm,
the minute I don't feel like he's protecting me, then I'm going to look for a way out.
mhm.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And so on one hand, you feel like you're building this whole foundation in which everything that happens in your life, as long as you two are faithful to each other, happens within the scope of the marriage.
Mhm.
But the other person always feels like it's good as long as you continue to meet these certain parameters. Otherwise, they're out.
Yeah.
And it happens a lot.
And I like how you put that, "as long as."
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, and um that's the big lesson for me is like we don't all think the same.
Mm,
That's the big thing about assumptions is you can't assume that other people have any of the same morals or criteria for a relationship that you do,
Right.
or a friendship or anything. We're all so different. Um, and I'll just we are running out of time here, so it says fourth agreement: always do your best. That's a big one. Just challenging ourselves to always be the best version of ourselves. Do you have anything on this one? I haven't had time to skim through it, but what does this one really get into?
what really what it is again tying into, your perception and always doing your best. And I think I kind of touched on it a little bit at the start of the show here was, I'm human. I'm human, and I make mistakes. It doesn't mean that, I'm allowed to keep making those same mistakes if I hurt someone or I make a mistake or something along those lines. But always do your best to try and improve, and do the best that you can for yourself personally. Not doing your best for um, seeking that validation from other people. Again, that was also something that, I think I touched on it was, I the way of belief that I had or the actions that I did was always to get some type of acceptance or get some type of validation from other people. And my mindset was I cared more about what you thought about me than I actually cared about you.
Mm.
And it's a dangerous place to be in, but always do your best in everything that you do, whether it's going to the gym or whether it's watching your diet or whether it's working on your personal relationship or whatever it may be is just always do your best and understand that it's okay to fail. It's
Hmm.
okay to fall,
Right.
but you pick yourself up and you move forward, and you always just try your best. And as long as you have that peace of mind of, you know what, I did try my best. I did
Right.
try my best, and
Right.
just because I fell a little bit, that's okay. I'm going to try it again, and I'm going to try the best that I can one more time, or however many times it takes. And that was kind of like my takeaway with always do your best.
Yeah, there's so many applications of that towards any skill or any hobby or any occupation is like we always have to be trying. We always have to, like you are going to fail, but you're always be trying and then when you're capable of really a lot, you got to do your best. Don't rest on your laurels.
Yeah.
I like it because it almost leaves you with this aura of positivity. I mean, you think
Mhm.
about this. If you look at the 4 agreements, always do your best. If you think of it as car, it's like the engine, right? It's just you just go, right? And then the other 3 are sort of like the guardrails and the steering wheel,
Mhm.
telling
I
you
love that.
how to go and what to avoid and how to manage things and how to go around curves and all of that stuff. But that do your best is the main. It just says just go, be positive about life. I really like the way that sounds.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the ways I look at this stuff is like I could just go out there right now and say, "Oh, everybody, go do your best," but you kind of need some of this other stuff to get out of your own way, and as far as not having expectation or not making assumptions and not having expectations, and not taking things personally. Those are the things that mess us up. Even in here, I remember reading it says like this is like 70% of your problems will go away if you stop taking things personally.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then it's like the rest is like the small stuff. But when you stop taking things personally, s- stop making assumptions, and realize how powerful your words are, and then just do your best. Like it's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's why this book is like a major bestseller. And Josh, we didn't get into talking about it in depth, but you've read different versions of this book over the years.
He has a lot of them.
They're
There's I think 4 or 5
they're
different
at the
variations.
some of them are at the back of the book here. It says Mastery of Love, Voice of Knowledge, Circle of Fire, Fifth Agreement, um, Live by the Four Agreements, Live a Better Life. So I guess, if you guys enjoyed the show today and enjoyed the Brandon K Book Club with Josh, comment, like, subscribe, go follow, go, what's the word? Check out Giftiply.com. We are sponsored by Giftiply.com. Giftiply is a charity wrapping paper. 33% of your purchase goes to charities. It's the gift wrap that gives back. It's a great company to check out. And like I said, like, comment, subscribe, go check out Giftiply, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for joining us.